Now for the half-time show in the coach's box where Rodney Eade has been sitting. 3 Brownlow medalists headed by Malcolm Blight.
Final half-time. Thanks. Thanks very much, Bruce. And yes, we're sitting here in the coach's box. It's very tight, and as we look out over this fantastic ground, I have with me Gerard Healy and Ross Glendinning. Welcome, boys.
Thanks, Blighty. Not as much pressure as I'm sure Rodney Eade is under at the present time.
No, well, actually, they started off very well, fellas, and it really was their half-back line that really did set them up.
Yeah, I think the fact that they won the ball out of the middle also exposed North Melbourne, and I think the fact that North Melbourne couldn't get any drive into their forward line, and when they did, it was all long bombs to a pretty packed forward line, that everything fell Sydney's way. Stafford's presence in the middle of the ground has been vital.
And of course, Ruse across that half-back line, Gerard and Mel's been critical, just reading the play, sitting off players, crowded that forward area of North. They've done it very well on that rebound.
Yes, Paul Ruse was fantastic, wasn't he? Really did stop them dead.
11 possessions in that first quarter, Mel.
I think what they've done, though, North Melbourne, is perhaps just neutralise that a little bit. John Blakey's done a pretty good job on Paul Ruse in that second term. And Shannon Grant perhaps caught out for pace when Dennis Pagan put Allison on for that split second, pinched a goal. It's a pretty smart move.
Yeah, what about up forward? Lockett was good with 3 goals early, but Troy Luff has been a bit of a surprise packet.
Well, he's also benefited from the fact that Sydney has been flooding the back line, because by taking out a couple of the half forwards and pushing them back, there's been just an enormous quantity of space for Troy Luff to pick up the ball. He's more a running player rather than a tall, and I'm sure that's why Dennis Pagan manned up Swass on him in the first time. But I think, Ross, that Swass, if North are to win, Swass has to dominate in the middle of the ground.
Which he's done now so far. He's come back on a Creswell where Freeborn early was run around by Creswell. I think Creswell had about 8 touches in that first quarter, so Swass more attuned to playing that middle area. And he's given that drive and he's bombed that ball down to some purpose.
We were a bit worried at quarter time. I thought that North was struggling, but then they kicked those 2 late goals from Allison and Freeborn that really put them back in front.
Yes, and Crocker coming back on the ground too, Mel, was important as another focal point down there, which Ruse was concerned about whether he should take Crocker or stay with Blakey. And Blakey's been pretty good keeping Ruse out of the play in that second term.
Freeborn, 3 goals in the quarter in a grand final for a youngster.
Yes, to come back after that first effort he had in that first quarter on Creswell, he was so dominant. It's a good effort.
Isn't it amazing? The stats were well down for North at quarter time, but at half time, even kicks, amazing.
Well, I think the most important stat on the board at the present time is the centre breaks. Sydney clearly were outgunning North Melbourne in the first term. I think North went into the game a little bit defensively. Laidley playing on Grant. He's normally their best half-back. He was playing as a half-forward. It didn't work. They turned that around. And I think this game will be won by the side that wins from the middle. And I guess to emphasise that at the opening bounce, it was pretty clear that Sydney were going to flood the back line, Ross. And what they did was take some of their, normally their half forwards, like a Lewis and a Dyson, and they put them down there, and it was almost as if Carey was a magnet. Every time the ball went near Carey, there were so many people flooding, and Dennis Pagan reacted by pushing his players down. So, in effect, it was Sydney Swans and Rodney Eade who was controlling what happened in the
And every time, if Ruse didn't take a mark and the ball was punched away from Carey, they had the numbers around the ball. Sometimes it was 3-on-1 to Carey, so they cleared that ball away pretty effectively.
It's been fantastic for the Swans all year, this, hasn't it? They've been defensive and they have flooded the opposition forward lines.
But I think the best move of the second quarter was McKernan. He dropped back into defence, which effectively evened up the score. So Dennis Pagan has imitated Rodney Eade's initiative, and it really is a square decision now of 50-50, and I think it's going to get down to who can win the ball out of the middle.
Well, I said in the opener, fellas, that I thought North they'd be the hardest running and the hardest attacking the football, but I mean, Sydney today showed they're equal of that, and their target up forward in Tony Lopez kick 4, and Mickey Martin just gets caught out every now and then, Mel, doesn't he? If he plays too far away from him, the ball comes down like Maxwell did there, gets caught out on occasions.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic first half. We've waited for a real close one, that's for certain. North Melbourne by 2 points. It's a very big crowd. We'll go back to Bruce upstairs after a short break.